Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining New Jersey Wedding Podcast. This is the podcast for all you brides and all you grooms planning your wedding in New Jersey. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton, and we are both full-time professional wedding officiants here in the state of New Jersey. And we thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Celia. How are you doing today? By the way, we're recording this on a Monday. We've just come off a busy weekend.
It was
How are you
crazy. It's
doing,
good. I'm
Celia?
good. I always love a Monday after we've had a crazy weekend because I feel like I deserve Monday. I really do. It's like if I was slacking around, it's like, oh, Monday, whatever. But I just feel like, yeah, we kicked some serious wedding butt this weekend. Yeah, we did. Where you were all over the place this weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of elopements happening, and I was also at the Sunset Ballroom. Where were
Nice.
you? Where were you?
Let's see, where were we? I was at Sherwood Forest, which I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more later on, but it's so cute, the Forest Lodge. And Michael was at Natterer, which is always 90 acres, which is always fantastic. Carrie was at the Bakari Grill, which is a really sweet Mediterranean style restaurant in Bergen County. Great micro wedding place. Really, really cute. So, we were all cranking. Yeah. But you were all over the place. Your big one was at the Sunset Grill, right?
At the
Sunset
Sunset
Ballroom.
Ballroom, and that's Jack Baker's Lobster Shanty at the Sunset Ballroom here in Point Pleasant Beach. And
Mm,
it faces the water there, the inlet. And so they get the most beautiful sunset. So obviously that's why it's called the Sunset Ballroom. It is, all the photographers at that time of the evening, they'll grab the couple and take them outside
yeah.
by the with the overlooking the water and getting that shot of the sunset. But that was a really beautiful wedding, beautiful, really fun couple. I love working there. The staff is excellent, and I live very close to there, so I've eaten there. I like the right next to the wharf side, which is the same owner. They have a
Mm.
great room for micro weddings there, and of course, everybody loves the patio bar. But so at this particular wedding, um, uh, it's here's a good reminder, although I'm going to say it totally worked out. But you and I both always remind the couple to bring their marriage license with them,
Yes, we
and
do.
you have a good saying that you tell them to put it in their shoe.
I do. Put it
And
in the box with your shoes because you
yeah,
can't walk down the aisle without both of them. I know it's
yeah,
corny.
yeah.
What can I tell you?
That's a great idea. I might borrow that from you because this this one they couldn't find the marriage license, and in the the rush of
Oh,
everything.
there's so many details,
Yeah,
right?
I don't blame them. I felt a little bad. They were like, we thought for sure that it was with the decorations we dropped off the day before, but they have a really good system at the Sunset Ballroom. Whenever they get that from the couples, they make a list, an immediate list of everything the
Yeah,
people
that's really
brought to
smart.
them. You have to inventory it.
Yep.
So if anything isn't there, you can say, well, it wasn't here. It was not on the inventory. So, it wasn't there. And luckily, they were staying local, and this venue is local to me. I said, don't worry about it. We're going to do the wedding. And afterwards, we're going to do the ceremony. So we're not going to mess up your cocktail hour or anything, because
Yeah.
we didn't have time for them to send the best man is who they were sending back to the hotel to look for it. So I have an elopement to go do at Spring Lake Park. I'm gonna go do that, and then I'm gonna come back to you, and and we'll see if you found it, and which they did. So I went and did the elopement. I come back an hour and 15 minutes later, it was, even the cocktail hour was over, and they had found it. So we sat down. I just grabbed the two witnesses. We sat down at a table, and we filled it out. So that really worked out. And I was so glad I was able to work it out with them. But, they had a moment where they felt a little panicked. But, you and I both know, I was like, we're going to work this out. If you
It'll
don't
be fine.
find it tonight, don't worry, we're going to work it out. We're going to find it. And even if we have to meet at a later date,
Yeah.
and kind of do like a little private elopement, you know?
We'll get it
So,
done. We'll get it done.
so, but that
Yeah.
license is so important. It is, it really is. You know, without it, I just say it's
It's a
you
big,
know,
expensive party. That's what it is.
it's a, it's a rehearsal. It's just a rehearsal, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Oh my
This,
gosh.
this couple incorporated, it was a pretty, you know, kind of traditional ceremony. They didn't want too much personalization about them,
Mhm.
although they personalized their vows, but they repeated them after me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was nice, you know.
Oh, that's a good compromise. I kind of like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, they kind of took the beginning of traditional, I take you to be, you know, my wife, and then but then they changed the wording. It was all repeat after me, but they did have the mother of the groom come up and do a reading, and a mother
Nice.
of the bride come up and do a reading. So those were two special things in the ceremony
I
that
like
they
that.
did. Yeah. And that personalized it. That also, they weren't very religious, and that gave them a little bit of a little, the little nod to
Yeah.
religion
Well,
that the
yeah.
families wanted. And I do sometimes say that, you know, if people say, well, we're not really religious, our parents are, and we wouldn't know what to, I said, you know, why don't you, if your parents are, if your moms, if this is important to them, you can always invite them to come up and do a blessing or a reading or
Right.
prayer or something. And so that's exactly what they did. You know, they each chose
Yeah.
a reading and came up and did that. And then at the end of the readings, each mom also hugged them. I love you. And yeah, they took that
Oh,
little moment before they went and took their seat and told them how much they love them. And, you
yeah.
know,
It's
um,
kind of nice because, I feel like if somebody else, if it's a parent or, maybe an uncle or an aunt or somebody who feels like that little touch of religious content is appropriate, it makes it feel like it was their gift instead of the fact that like we wrote this in. It's a little bit more detached, but it's still there, but it's a little bit less like the couple really wanted to do this thing personally.
well said. I like that idea. Like it's their gift. That's true.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And it was, the ceremony space was big enough, roomy enough for me to step away from the microphone,
Oh,
and
nice.
the readers came and stood right at the mic, right in front of the couple, right in front of the guests. So that was really nice. I like that little touch to it, and the couple were so happy. You know, I was glad that I could help them and make sure that they were calm and like, this isn't going to be stressful. We're going to get this worked out. You know,
Yeah. You're going to be
and
legal. It's going to be
yeah,
fine.
yeah, it's gonna be fine. We got this, you know. When I turned to him and I was like, I said, you're not the first person, trust me, that
Yeah,
has
it's true.
lost, misplaced, or forgot their license. We're gonna work it out. So don't worry, if I got this, you know. And so
It's all going to be fine.
yeah, so I think it's things like that that us as professional wedding officiants bring to the table, and we know the laws and how we can work it out afterwards. You know, maybe the date can't be the same, you know, but if we have
Yeah.
to do it at another date, but it's still going to be perfect. And another thing we as professional wedding officiants bring to the table is when we talk about the readings, we both print out the readings. I printed these, and both
Yeah.
the moms were so thankful, on beautiful cardstock paper that looked so nice for the photographer when they were taking the pictures of the moms doing the reading. And I know we both do this. I go with the font larger.
Yes, me
You
too.
can't go wrong with large font. You just
No,
can't.
you can't.
Even if the
No.
people don't need large font, yeah, no, nobody's ever said, "Oh, large font." I
That's
always
too
go
big.
better.
Yeah.
Also, I think even if you don't, it's not even for the purpose of not wanting to get glasses out. I think the larger font, when for reading like those, you know, poems, readings and stuff,
Yeah.
it helps you keep your place, kind of,
Yes.
you know,
It
you
does.
don't lose your place
This
so
is
much. If it's
well,
larger is better.
well, because they're all nervous. They don't do this. And
No,
it sounded like a really great idea when somebody asked them. But
yeah.
it's like that day and they're nervous. And just I don't know. And it's where you are, it's always windy. It has to be on cardstock, or else it's gonna be all
Yeah,
over the
it has
place.
to be. It has to be.
Gotta be. You could put it on
Exactly.
like a tablet, like like the Ten Commandments would be fine.
I I had so many lovely elopements this weekend. I'll say real quick, I had them on Manalocan Beach and Spring Lake Park. So I know we both have great elopement packages. So I'll say that. So it was great. So talking about professionals, we did have the opportunity to have a great interview with Brookes Brides, a
Oh yeah.
professional that we enjoy working with.
Yep.
And I want everybody, stick around. Here comes that interview.
It's going to be fun. Thanks so much. You're engaged. That is just great. But right after that excitement, stress can sneak in like a surprise RSVP. Traditional weddings are beautiful, but they can also be expensive and complicated and frankly a little overwhelming. What if your wedding could be everything you dream of, minus the drama? At NJ Vows Now, we believe your special day should reflect your unique love story, not some outdated list of rules. You can have all the wedding and none of the stress. We have sweet little parks and pretty gardens from the Hudson River to the Jersey Shore to the lush forests of the North and the West. We'll connect you with a curated network of amazing vendors who will understand your vision and respect your budget. We're all passionate, professional, dedicated to making your wedding a relaxed, unforgettable experience. Yes, you still need a license, but we can help you with that too. It's fast, it's easy, and you can still throw a big party later if you want. Doesn't that sound great? Of course it does. So just ditch the drama, vow to be different, and reach out to us at njvowsnow.com. We will have the confetti cannons ready.
So yeah, and today we have the pleasure to interview a wedding planner, Brooke of Brookes Brides. And I know, Celia, that you have had the opportunity to work
Yeah.
with Brooke quite a lot.
Numerous times, yeah. And it's always a good time. Yes, we're very happy to welcome Brooke Heller, who is the owner, mastermind of Brookes Brides. She can help engaged couples go from excited right past that we are so overwhelmed part to being excited again. And she really does that by managing their details, big and little. Whether you're at a sumptuous, fabulous venue or in your own lush backyard, she is your spirit planner. Wait a second, Brooke, that was exactly your weekend this weekend, wasn't it? You had a lush backyard and one of the most sumptuous venues. Tell us about your weekend and then we'll talk about your company.
Hi, everyone, and hi, both of you. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you for
Thank you.
This,
joining us.
of course, this weekend it was exactly that. Saturday, I had a backyard wedding. It was held at their friend's house in Wayne. It was absolutely beautiful. Like you
Mm,
could tell, they really took the time to redo this backyard.
nice.
Um, yeah, it was gorgeous. And then Sunday, I was at Florentine Gardens, which in itself is just a beautiful venue. They've
Ooh,
updated so much recently and added a few extra rooms that are just stunning. The photos we got there were incredible. Kept telling my bride, I was like, this is literally going to be in Vogue. You're like going to make wedding magazines. It's gorgeous.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with and I am a veteran of backyard weddings as a caterer, as an officiant too. We always end up talking about ice and restrooms. Not
Yeah.
glamorous, but both necessary. What are your takes on, when people are planning backyard weddings, which are very sweet, what are the things that they tend to forget that you're like, wait a second, you need valet parking? What do you tell people? How do you help them?
Yeah, so backyard weddings, I think people think overall it might be easier or a little bit less expensive, but the
Aha.
truth is that it ends up being almost equivalent to, working with a venue, whether it's top
Yeah.
notch or just your average venue, because
Yeah.
you don't realize how many moving parts you actually have to bring in.
Right.
This backyard doesn't even come with the basic equips of like a tent, table, chairs, linens, all that stuff. So that stuff in general will add up aside from then having all of your vendors and all of your, moving parts to that. So it does end up being pretty pricey. I think that's something that people look over.
Yeah.
And then as far as the ice in the restrooms, definitely two things that need to be talked about too.
Yeah.
um, this particular house was pretty large. It definitely was able to accommodate the restroom situation well. However,
Wow.
I've
Oh,
seen people, they have those fancy that I guess you'd call them like porta potties, but they look
Yes.
like trailers.
Yes, the
Yeah.
executive
So
trailers. I know.
Yeah. Yes,
yes,
those are nice.
so
Yeah.
it's definitely something to consider. Especially, maybe if the people that own the house don't really want strangers
Yeah,
rummaging through their house all day. Or if they just simply don't have a lot of bathrooms. You could still have a beautiful house, but only have maybe one or two
yeah,
bathrooms.
yeah.
So, if you have
Yeah,
50
and
or
you don't want to
60
do the
guests,
cleanup after. That's what
yeah,
I would, yeah.
exactly. So it definitely can get a little tricky on that end. And same thing with ice. Like you were saying, you just have to have an ample amount of coolers, refrigerator space, freezer space, which is difficult because, we just don't have that. We're also storing all the food for the day, the appetizers, the entrees, all that stuff. Even though the caterer comes in, they still need to use your space for storage.
Right, right.
It's
I
so
So
I
it's
true.
I think when
I
you have
think,
a
definitely something to
backyard
consider.
wedding, you really need a wedding planner
oh,
and
for sure.
coordinator because you like Brooke said, you're really starting from scratch. You don't have the venue and all their facilities there and their plates and their this and their that, So it's really one of those times where don't think you can do it yourself.
No,
Save
Of
not at
yourself
course.
the
all.
stress and get a good wedding planner, get Brooks Brides.
Absolutely. And then another thing I think that is something common that brides will think, or maybe their parents will think, whether you're at a backyard or at a venue, is they're always like, oh, well, my mom can do it, my sister can do it. You don't realize how much those immediate family members are needed. Like they need to be in hair and makeup, they need to be taking photos. Like you can't have
Right.
mom stepping away to check on centerpieces or to make sure the deliveries were there. Where's the cake? Like stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
those people need to be where they're supposed to be. So they
No,
can't be pulled.
you make
Right.
a very good point. And my theory also is like, don't make your friends work. Don't make your
Yeah.
friend, don't make your friend bring the ice. See, we're back to ice again.
Yeah.
But the backyard thing is great, but I feel like the prime motivation for people picking that way to do a wedding, it should not be budget because it will never end up being budget friendly.
What you
Um,
think.
yeah. And people don't understand that that you need a tent unless you have a gigantic house, which sounds like that was great. You are going to need a tent because if it rains, you're going to need a tent, and tents are more expensive than people think. So,
Oh yeah. And having the
yeah,
sides too is important.
excellent.
The
And having
sides
enough,
on the tent that drop down.
yeah.
Yeah, those are definitely something that you want to add on.
But I think you make a very good point about, people thinking that, well, I'm just, we're gonna take 4 pictures and then I can go and ice the cake. It's like, no, you can't. And,
Yeah.
even if you can, don't you really want to enjoy that day as the mother of the bride or the maid of honor, or, don't you just want to go there and be like having a good time and not worried about, whether the teaspoon showed up? That's what you're there for.
Yeah. Exactly. I
Well,
actually had a bride once, so funny that you mentioned that. She was a baker by that was her occupation, and she wanted to make her own, and we were like, "Oh, that's great." And then speaking of in the dress and stuff, right before she got dressed, it delayed us a few minutes, nothing crazy, but she did want to go make sure it was perfect, take it out of the freezers, do all this stuff, and that was like something that we did not think because
yeah.
we didn't have that in the timeline.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is that people have, people who plan these things, and I love that kind of like, hey kids, let's put on a show. I don't mind that. I kind of like it. But for most people who are doing these things, whether they're doing them in their backyard or at a fabulous venue, they have never done this before. And,
Right.
I saw a video, I don't know which planner this was. I don't think it was somebody from around here. Their Instagram video was literally a video of them putting water in the vases for the flowers that the couple had arranged. That video was like almost 10 minutes long. And
Oh
all we're
yeah.
talking about, it's like, oh, we'll just throw them on the table. It's like, no, no, you can't. Nobody has any idea how long this is going to take except you. You know how long that's going to take.
Yes, and lighting candles. Everyone
Oh
wants a
gosh, yes.
romantic vibe. Lighting
Oh
candles
gosh.
takes a long time.
Oh my gosh, it
And you
so
have to
does.
light them at the right time too, because most candles only last 4 to 6 hours if you get like the quote unquote good ones, the
Yeah.
name brand
Yeah.
ones. So you have to light them, during the cocktail hour. Because if you light them too soon, they'll be dead before the end of the reception.
I know.
And you'll have wax everywhere.
It's all these like little things, that it's like we have a unity candle, but there's nothing to light it from except that big barbecue lighter. We spent
Yeah.
thousands of dollars on flowers and the beautiful setting with the archway and that big round thing with the flowers hanging off the top. And now we are going to pull out a big red barbecue lighter to light the unity candle. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Um,
one of my favorite things about what we do is all the different places we go for weddings. So you were at a backyard, which is a whole different set of circumstances, and then the next day you were at a beautiful venue, which is
oh my God.
still so nice to have your own coordinator looking
Yeah,
after you. I know venues come with their maitre d's and stuff, but it's important to have a coordinator is so helpful.
I think so
Absolutely.
too. What do you find yourself, Brooke? What are the things that you bring up to your clients that they would not necessarily think to ever ask you?
Um, oh my goodness, that's a tricky one. I feel like we
Okay,
go
nothing
over
rude. Keep it clean.
we go over a lot. So our final call will go over all the details of their specific day, of course, kind of start to finish, and then we'll go over other tips and tricks just for the week of in general to have, and then for that morning. So for the girls, for the guys, there's always different stuff. We'll talk about making sure that you have food prepared, your details prepared for the photographer. This way, when they walk in, they don't have to ask you a million questions. Everything's just set, ready to go for them. Um,
That's
as
such a
far
good
as,
point. That's such a good, because
yeah,
we see people scrambling. Where are the rings? Where are the shoes? Where's the
mhm.
invitation? That is a brilliant point.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also too, on the other side of it, just the week of like kind of how to deal with like tricky questions. We love our friends and family so much. That's of course why they're coming and included, but sometimes they tend to ask us things and we're like, "Oh my goodness, why are you bringing this up the week of my wedding?" And there's things that can get a little difficult or maybe people that are a little tricky. So, and every family
I
has
see
that.
that.
And I
Hmm.
always bring that up. And I personally try to hit 50 a year. So I have this conversation 50 different times. And no matter who it is, everyone's going to have friends and family members like that that are maybe just a little too outspoken or kind of just don't know what to say when to say it type thing.
Yeah.
So just being able to navigate that and not let it really affect you too much because people don't realize that, sometimes the things that they say can really have an impact on a bride and groom because they are so emotional. So
Yeah.
they don't really get, maybe if you say their colors are green and gold, they're like, "Oh, well, I don't like gold," and that like sits on them.
Yeah. We
Or,
don't care.
yeah, or like the plus one thing, like people are very, very bold when they ask for like, "Well, why don't I have a plus one?" or "Why can't my kids come?" And they don't realize that that does impact the couple and it does make them feel bad, but that's, what they chose for everyone. So they can't,
Yeah.
if they make the exception for you, they have to do it for their entire guest list, which isn't fair.
Yeah.
Right.
I think guests sometimes don't, and and maids of honor and the rest of the bride. I think that, as you said, I think that they don't think enough about like they think that they're the only person. It's like you're the only person that has 3 kids that you want to bring to the wedding, which the kids don't want to go
Mhm.
there anyway for the most part.
Yeah.
And the maid of honor, it's like you're not the only maid of honor ever who doesn't like their shoes. It's like
Right.
you need to be part of a bigger purpose for that day, and assuming that your couple there, it's not like you don't have a couplezilla. It's like they're trying to manage a massive amount of time and money and emotion that they have never done before and ideally will never do again. So just,
Right.
suck it up and put the shoes on,
Yeah, exactly. Bring an extra pair of sandals for the reception.
Yeah, really. What oh you just remember we kind of talk about trends, but not in a way of, well, this is everybody else is doing this, so you need to do it too. But there are some things that I think happen organically with trends. And one of the ones we've been talking about is people not doing their vows publicly, writing them and saying them during the first look. First looks, I don't think that's a trend anymore. I think that's like a given. But
Yeah.
Andrea, what's the cake thing we're talking about not cutting the cake
No,
at
no,
the
it's
end?
not cutting the cake. It's doing it not stopping the party to do it and
Yeah.
making everybody sit down and watch us do the cake. It's the couple will go off to the side and let everybody continue dancing. And they go off to the side and they'll do the cake cutting with just themselves and the photographer, or just themselves and their parents or their bridal party. It's kind of a way to keep the party going instead of stopping, because simply because they don't want to stop the party and the fun. They always do the cake cutting, but they used to combine the cake cutting with also the garter, with also the
Yeah.
throwing the bouquet. But they
Right.
don't do the garter has gone out. Very rarely that happens anymore, right? And a lot of times the
Right.
bouquet doesn't get thrown anymore. But so in order to not stop the party, they'll go over and they'll get the photos. They'll do that tradition. It's a beautiful tradition, you know, as long as you're not smashing. But that they'll go over and and do that kind of privately and get their photos and then go back to the party. And
Yeah.
the cake gets served, you know? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I see that a lot. And there's actually, so we'll ask the clients if they want to do public or private cake cutting, but it doesn't even boil down to that, because now there's two ways you could do private cake cutting. You can
mhm.
do it like you're saying. So after dinner, during the reception, we let the band or DJ keep going, and we just bring the couple off to the cake, which is still in the room. So it's kind of like, if you see it, great. We make
Yeah.
sure that
Mhm.
the parents are there, because that's more of a tradition for, like, our parents and grandparents, I think, at this point.
Okay.
Um, so that's a first way. So it's still, in the ballroom or the reception space.
Right.
The
They don't
other
go
way,
hide. Yeah. It's just
yeah.
over to the side. They just
Mhm.
don't stop. Yeah. Okay. Go on. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and then the other way is that, like, if they're really not, into it, they just wanna do it for the photo, we can
Mm.
actually do it during cocktail hour. So the last 10 minutes of cocktail hour, we do what's called a room reveal. So we'll bring the couple
Oh, I
into the
love that.
ballroom. Yeah,
Yes.
we bring them in and we let them see the space before anyone, puts their drink down, takes their jacket off, like, kind of, well, say, messes it up in a way. Um,
Mhm.
but, before they kind of ruin the aesthetic of it, we
Right.
bring
That's
them
an
in so they can
exciting
see
moment.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really awesome for the couple. You get some great shots with the photographer. If you have any extras from the band or DJ, like, they could do the sparklers for you or anything like that, some uplighting. And then we can just literally hold the knife to the cake and get that good photo. Some people don't even cut it. Some people will cut it and we'll replace it with a flower. Like, we'll cut a really small piece,
Uh-huh.
and that's it. And the cake is always kind of adjacent and behind the sweetheart table. So
Right.
really no one's walking back there anyway, like, you would never know if
Yeah.
we put a slit in it or took a little piece
Yeah,
out of it.
that's kind of crafty. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It
there's
is crafty.
now you
Yeah.
have to really ask what kind of private cake cutting you want, because they're getting pretty creative.
Oh, I think sometimes people who read about things about our industry think that we just stay up at night thinking of new things to make them nuts.
Yeah.
I like how some of these have evolved just by wanting to
Yeah,
get
that's
the
a great
most out
idea.
of your, what you want out of your reception. So Brooke, how long have you been a wedding planner, and what got you started on this?
So
What
I've been doing this with my business for about 6 years now.
uh-huh.
And then prior to that, I had worked at a venue. It was beautiful. It was like a very high-end place. I
Mm,
learned a lot from them,
yeah,
and
I
I just
bet.
would have loved to, like, move up, but unfortunately there was no other place to go. So I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, like, it'll be a little disappointing, but at least I could say I tried."
Yeah,
And,
good.
yeah, I would definitely say for anyone, starting a business or thinking about it, like, it's going to be hard. And that's what I tell people all the time, like, when they ask advice or anything, just try to push through the hard phase of it, because nothing is ever easy in the beginning, no matter what you're doing, but it will come together. So I joke and say probably for like 9 months, I was like, what the heck am I doing? There's definitely some nights where I was like, upset and I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. But then one day I just feel like I woke up and it just fell into place. And you definitely, after 6 years, like, I've learned a lot of things through experience, how to tweak certain things, how to make things better. But you just got to give it a shot. I always say go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, great advice. Great advice. And
Thank
what type
you.
of different packages do you offer?
So really the most popular is day of. But you can't come in and plan someone's wedding in a day, of
Right.
course.
That's
So
right. Like a
it's
couple of
the
months
month
of.
of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really the month of, and that's when the clients will give me back all their information that they have already gotten from me. So all their packets will be returned. And that's when I start, contacting vendors, creating their timeline. So that month is really honed in on those clients. And then leading up to it, of course, if they have questions, concerns, they want to do Zoom calls or anything like that, they definitely can. But it's not so much starting from scratch anymore because I feel like clients definitely know what they're looking for, like what style venue, if they want more rustic, they want
Mhm.
to do the backyard, the modern. So that they kind of, they know what they want. So they really don't
Mhm.
need help. So when you come to me, you really just need to have your venue picked out and your date locked in. This way I can ensure that I'm available.
Right.
Yeah, and pulling it all together. Yeah, I feel like that,
Yeah,
day of, I don't know who invented that title day of, but you can't just walk into somebody's wedding on the day of and get
I
anything
know.
accomplished. I mean, that's like and honestly, if you're like freaked out by your wedding, you're probably going to be freaked out way before the day of.
Oh, of
It's
course.
like, I need help and I need it now.
Yeah,
Well, I could
absolutely.
say that I've worked with Brooke and a few of her other her associates, and you are, I have to tell this little story. We can edit it out if you want to, but um I was booked with you for a wedding last year, and I got there and there was another planner, and you were there too. Brooke had like done something awful to her foot. And she was there anyway, and, she brought another planner in to get this all together, but it's like, I remember talking to you, and he's like, "I'm not gonna let this go by with her thinking that, like, I just couldn't get here." And,
Right.
I think that really spoke to the level of commitment that really good vendors have to making your day. Because nobody at that wedding wants to know that your planner had, like, she's like, her foot's broken or whatever
Yeah.
it was. They just wanna know that everything went great, and the license was there, and the rings were there, and the cake had a little slit out of it, but nobody knew. They just, we just wanna make everything is fine, and I was like, I got in the car, I'm like, damn, that woman is like, she's on it. So, and
Oh,
my experience has always been with you that, you are on it, and I worked with one of your other people at another venue, and, just one of the things I think that really sets you apart too is that you really have such a good working relationship with the people at these venues. And I think that's really important because you've got people at the venue who are in charge of things, and then people that, yeah, you're in charge of things because people hire you to do that. And that cooperation and respect for each other, I think really, really makes for a better day.
And that says a lot.
yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I was just laughing because I remember that
Oh
day
my
and that
God.
client, and I was like literally hobbling and I had to wear Uggs and I was like, this is so unprofessional. I look crazy. Like I just walked in from the mall. And I was so concerned with that. But it's so funny because the way other people see it, and then everyone's got their own insecurities in their head.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna think like she's a mess, even though I had been to that venue a million times. But yeah, it's definitely like you said, just having the good relationships and being able to have someone step in because our jobs are so different from other people, not in
Oh
just
yeah.
the aspect of what we do, but it's not like, I used to bartend, so I could use that example, but it's not like we're on a bartending shift and someone can just cover you. Like
Right.
no one can
Right.
really come in and cover us. Like
Right.
sick, broken arm, broken leg, whatever the situation is, you have to make it work. And you have
Right.
to
Right.
have someone, if not that you can really count on to take your place and you feel 100% comfortable that like they're going to go in and do an amazing job. And that's hard to, build that relationship. And when you do, you like want to hold on to it for life. Like you can't lose that person because,
Right.
it's very difficult to find someone that does everything your style, your way, how you
It's
would,
true.
God forbid, of an emergency, like what would you do?
It's
You kind
very
of have
hard.
to think like, what would Brooke do? What would Celia do in this moment?
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Well,
it's
it's
really
you want
hard.
somebody that's you trust to be the face of your business is basically that,
Exactly.
and that's not easy to find, but when you do, you really have to hold on to them. And you're so right. You always have to have the emergency backup and stuff. Yeah. I want to tell our listeners that we will put a link to Brooke's Instagram. It's at Brooks_Brides. And that way, that'll be on all of our social media sites. So you can just click on it and go right to her Instagram, and you can contact her from there for a quote. And you can see her beautiful pictures from all her latest ceremonies and events. So, well, we're gonna say goodbye. Any last things you'd like to tell our listeners before we say goodbye?
Sure. Well, again, to the two of you, thank you so much. This has been so fun, and I absolutely
Good.
love working with you guys. I can't wait to see you again soon.
Me
And for
too.
all the listeners and the engaged couples, good luck. Please reach out to both of us if you need us or if you need any guidance. We're always here to help. And
Yeah.
for anyone that listened to the podcast today and is thinking about moving forward or potentially getting a coordinator, we'd be happy to offer you a discount just for listening and tuning in and hanging out with us for a little bit.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right.
Fantastic, Brooke. It was great to have you. You have a great, see, Monday, people don't realize that like Monday is kind of like our Saturday.
Yeah, Monday is a busy day for me.
I know, right?
It's
Crazy.
clean up in aisle 5 time, right? Maybe Tuesday's our new Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, have a great Tuesday, okay? And thanks again.
Thank you so much, ladies. Have a great day, a great week, and I will see you soon.
I hope so. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.